Okay, good. Well, all I'd say is that last night I counted at the height of the meeting, there was about 60-something people online attending the meeting, and I counted about 11 men out of the 61. I haven't done it tonight, but I think as men, we don't really look after our health as we should. We wait and wait and wait and wait, and until something really begins to pain us very seriously, we actually don't want to go to the doctor. But I think ladies, wives, husbands, sisters, please harass your men, harangue them to look after their health, to take better care of the health, because it really, really makes a difference. And I didn't realize this until I lost someone very close to me. And when I attended a meeting about cancer, there was a doctor that he was talking about cancer and prostate cancer. And he was saying to the ladies there, wives, bring your husband to my surgery, force him, don't ask him, just bring him, don't discuss it, bring him, because you can save his life. And so this evening, I want to have a look at prostate cancer again. Some of the stuff I think I've been through before with you, but I just think critically for us, knowledge is power. And especially as Black men, the more we know, the more about prostate cancer, the more we can help to protect ourselves. And I always say to my grandson, Cassius, Cassius, always do the best that you can. And when you know better, do better. And I think it's the same thing for us today, that as men, we have knowledge, we must use it for our health. And this thing about prostate cancer, it isn't only about us men, it's about the rest of our family. Because if you have prostate cancer, as a man, it affects everybody in the family, everybody. And so I'll just do a brief introduction. I'll give you some brief statistics, very short ones, nothing complex. Am I admitting as well, or someone else admitting? Okay, brief statistics, and then I'll show a short video clip. Then I'll talk about my experience of prostate cancer, and there's some key points I want us to live with. And then if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them. Can I just say, I am not a medical person. I just know how to bandage a cut or bruise on my hand if that happens. So I'm not a medical doctor. I've just about passed St. John's first aid training. So I'm just sharing with you my personal experiences. Okay, so here we go. As you know, prostate cancer is not a respect of persons. So here, just some of the people you might know, Darcus Howe, we know he had it, but he's passed away. Of course, Ben Carson. And this man, Errol McKellar, a really important person. For me, I find that it was East London, and you might have heard about him before. But what he did, he had prostate cancer, and so he went and had the treatment. And so to get other people to go and see the doctor, what he does, if you go and see a doctor after visiting his garage and he services your car, he gives you a discount. And I think in the last honors list, he was given an OB for the work that he does with prostate cancer. And then, of course, Colin Powell, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and he's passed away now. And there's Victor, who's looks after issues relating to racial equality. Okay, so you could be rich, poor, indifferent. Prostate cancer is not a respecter of persons. Here we go. Some brief stats, a little bit of data, not a lot. As you know, prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men in the UK. Just under 50,000 men are diagnosed with this thing every year. And one of the researchers, the doctors on Cancer UK has plastered across the site as you join Cancer UK, that prostate cancer kills a man every 45 minutes. So by the time we finish this discussion online, someone would have died from prostate cancer. And it accounts for 26% of all new cases in the UK, just over a quarter. And 12,000 men die in the UK each year. And that was statistics from about a year ago. Unfortunately for us as Afro-Caribbean men, 1 in 4 Black, Caribbean, and African men will be contracted and diagnosed with cancer in a lifetime, and 1 in 8. Now, I must say here that because you have prostate cancer, it doesn't mean that you will die, okay? And we'll discuss that a lot later on. Unfortunately, although some people claim to have cures for everything and taken all sorts of portions, prostate cancer, there's no known cure for it, okay? And however, it can be treated a lot. And so very quickly, a short video clip just to recap on what is this horrible thing that affects so many of us. And I'll just show you a short video. Come down, come.
It's a big deal. For starters, it's the most frequently diagnosed cancer in American men, and it's treatable, right? So many famous people have been diagnosed, and they seem to be okay. Plus, nobody actually dies of prostate cancer, right? Wrong. It's estimated that almost 30,000 lives could be lost this year to prostate cancer in the US alone. And did you know that African American men have the highest death rate for prostate cancer over any other racial or ethnic group in the US? Let's put that into perspective. People always say flying is a pretty safe way to travel, especially if you compare it to driving. According to the most recent statistics, the number of men who are estimated to die from prostate cancer is nearly the same as people who died in driving accidents. If you are African American, you may be at higher risk. Studies have shown that African American men often have more aggressive prostate cancer than other men at diagnosis, and also die more often from prostate cancer. In fact, African American men die of prostate cancer more than twice as often as Caucasian men. But let's back up a little bit. Let's talk about how such a small part of the body can have such a big impact. First of all, what is a prostate? The prostate is a gland about the size of a walnut that is part of the male reproductive system. It makes the fluid that carries sperm and is located just below the bladder. Like most other parts of the body, the prostate is made up of cells. When the prostate is working properly, these cells will grow, divide, and die in a regular cycle. So what is prostate cancer? Prostate cancer is an abnormal process in which old prostate cells do not die as they should, and new cells grow too quickly. This creates a buildup of cells known as a tumor. Prostate cancer growth is unpredictable and often changes over time. In advanced cases, the cancer cells may spread to other parts of the body. More advanced disease can be fatal. Prostate cancer has a serious impact on our country. In the US alone, it is estimated that about 230,000 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer, and more than 2 million men who have been diagnosed at some point are living with it today. For every 6 Caucasian men in the US, 1 of them will be diagnosed with prostate cancer at some point in their lives, and 1 in 39 will die from it. But for every 5 African American men, 1 will get prostate cancer, and 1 in 22 will die from it. What are some things that put men at a higher risk for prostate cancer? Age is certainly one thing. Men over 65 are at a higher risk. Family history is another. If a man's father, brother, or son has developed prostate cancer, his risk is increased. And as you know, being African American also increases the risk. If you have questions about your risk for prostate cancer, speak to your physician. Your physician can discuss ways to determine your specific risk. There is some good news for those diagnosed with prostate cancer, even those with advanced stages. Ongoing research in advanced prostate cancer is leading to new treatment options. Who should be talking about this? Everyone. Tell your dad, your brother, your son. and encourage them to be proactive in talking to their doctor about prostate cancer. The word is spreading, and it has already made a difference. The more people you talk to about prostate cancer, the more men we might be able to help. Do your part to help thousands, and share this video with friends and loved ones.
Okay, so I think the key message here for me is to share the video, share the message with friends and loved ones. Let's get back to where we were. Okay, so my experience with prostate cancer. In 2014, I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and I thought, oh my God, this is it. I had some problems with that area before, but the doctors just said it was just an infection. But I was really shocked when I was diagnosed with prostate cancer. I had lots of visits to my doctor, and I went to hospital visits, many hospitals. And after 6 months, they said that what they will do, they have something called active surveillance. And active surveillance, what it is that they don't operate, they don't give you any medicine, and they just wait and watch, and PSA readings, blood tests, and they wait and watch, just active surveillance. Every 2 months, you go and you get your blood test, and they check to see what's happened to the cancer. But after a while, my PSA started to rise, and I was in dire straits because I thought I didn't want to lose anything down there. So I was umming and ahhing, and then one of the nurses who is the lead nurse on the team said that, Mr. Smith, you're a young man. I thought young. I think I was 58 at the time, so I was young. But anyhow, she said, you're a young man, and if you have the prostate removed, that's a cure. And I'll come back to that later. No, I thought that it was a cure when that prostate is removed. Because if you have it removed, then you can be cured from prostate cancer. And so I had lots of PSA tests, I had biopsies, I had MRI, bone scan, PSA readings, and so on. So I had this thing. Some men don't like that, the digital rectal examination. But I tell you, my friend, and men, if you're listening, men, it's better to have the doctor put his finger up your bottom and feel for the cancer than to die of this thing. I had this thing here, the biopsy. Now, biopsy is not painful, but it's just uncomfortable. So I had that as well. And when I had the biopsy, they took 12 bits of 12 samples, and 9 out of the 12 was cancerous. So I definitely had it. And then I also had the MRI, and then of course I had the bone scan. Now I'm not sure if you can see the bone scan. Is my can you see the picture on the right? Anybody?
With the skeleton.
Yes. And
yes.
Are the list of people covering on my screen? It is.
I can see it.
Okay, but to the right of it, there's two pictures. One with a light in the middle in the prostate area. No, that is good. I say it's good because if the cancer stays within the prostate, that is, well, it's bad, but it's good because it can be treated, it can be bombarded, or it can be removed completely. But the last thing, men, and that's why it's important, ladies, sisters, aunties, if you have your husband or your son or your uncle, get them to ask questions with the doctors, because if it begins to spread, when it's up with the lymph node, it goes to your bones, you don't want that to happen. So if it stays on, I think the picture on the right, very right-hand side, shows the cancer when it's spread to all areas of the body. And then, of course, it becomes very difficult to treat them. So we don't want that to happen. So I had all of these tests, and fortunately, only my cancer was still within the prostate. Now, so I tell you, I was worried. I wouldn't pretend and say I wasn't. I was concerned because I didn't know much about it, and although I read a lot about it, I was still worried. And so my dad, there was a man in Grenada, Mr. Clements. Now, he had prostate cancer, and he suggested 90% raw, 10% cooked. 90% raw, 10% cooked. And he kept on telling me this. I tried this for a while, but I'm afraid, sorry, I couldn't, although it was good, I was losing weight. Mind you, I'm quite thin. I was losing weight, but I think the prostate was, the PSA was going down. But I know, I couldn't eat all this ready, raw food. So after a while, I went off it. But one of the things that helped, you see this thing that soursop? An Indian man online said to me that soursop is good for prostate. He said, if you get 10 leaves, 3 cups of water, boil down the 3 cups of water to 2 cups, make it concentrated, drink it for a month, and then go and see your urologist. In the meantime, I'd gone to the Philippines, and I went to the university there, and I met one of the professors at SDA University, and I went to lunch with him. And I said, oh, you have a soursop tree in your garden. He said, my brother, this is not a soursop tree. This is an anti-cancer tree. They call it guyobano in the Philippines. So when I came back, I drank the tea as the Indian fellow suggested me for 1 month. And then I went to see my urologist. And he said to me, Mr. Smith, what medicine have you been taking? I said, so, Mr. whatever his name was, I haven't, you distribute and give me anything that I need. You haven't given me anything. I'm under active surveillance. Because he said, your PSA has come down from 8.4 to 4.2 in the last month. What have you been doing? And then I told him about the soursop. Soursop. I said in Grenada we call it soursop. In the Philippines they call it guyobano, and in South America they call it graviola. I think something like that. And then he said, very interesting. He says this is going to be our secret. But anyhow, after a while, I think it started to rise again, and I decided to have my prostate removed. And the key thing I would say, gentlemen, is to talk to people. Talk to anybody who has it. Talk to your wife, talk to your sister, talk to your mother. I talked to one friend of mine, I was dilly-dallying, and she said to me, Mike, you know what, she goes to Wilson Church, I've forgotten her name. She's one of the bud girls. She said, Michael, don't be stupid. My husband had it, and he had his prostate removed. He wasn't too happy, but he said to me, Michael, I much rather have my husband for life than to have good sex for just a few months. So go and have your prostate removed. And so I did have it removed, and now my PSA is generally between 0.5 and 0.2. I do a lot of sports. I walk, I hike, I cycle, I play walking football, and I'm at a place now where my prostate is quite stable. So I had this thing on the right-hand side. It's a robot-assisted operation. That's what I had, upside down, and the robots are pushing. I'm not sure what they were doing. I was unconscious anyhow, but that's what I chose to have. Now I say that I thought, I'll go back there. I thought that when they used the robot-assisted procedure to remove the cancer, it all goes away, because the cancer, what they do is, whilst you're upside down on the table and they cut out the prostate and pull it out. Whilst you're lying on the table, they go to the lab and they look at the edges of where they've cut out. And if there's any cancer on the edges, what they've removed from you, they go back, come back into you, and they scrape out any trace of cancer that's there, so that's all removed at the margins. Now, I thought that was the case, that it was removed, but recently I was looking at some work in America, and there's one gentleman who said even though he had his prostate removed, the cancer has come back. And a close friend of mine who lives not too far from the church has also had his cancer returned, even though he had it removed. And so my message is that even though you've had it removed, even though you think it's working well, please keep in touch with your urologist or your oncologist or your lead nurse, and keep in touch with them all the time. Don't take no for an answer. Don't be put off. Don't be put off by saying, wait, call me in 2 weeks' time. No, 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 no. If you have to go and knock at the surgery, go and knock at the surgery, because it is your health. It is your health. It is your life. And don't allow them to put you off. So even though it's difficult now to see the doctors because of the COVID and making an appointment, be persistent. And so finally, the key point, if we have knowledge, we have power. If it's left unchecked, it can lead to death. Speak to your loved ones, as I've been saying. Associate any Black man 45 or over. Look out for system, pain, toilet frequency, any swelling you have. If you find when you go to the toilet, I know as we get older, as men, I don't know about ladies, as men, as you go older, sometimes you used to go to the toilet and you're out quick. But sometimes when you go to the toilet, it comes out drip, 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 drip. If you find those signs, that might be something, the flow rate, go and have that checked out. And females are crucial in deciding the approach to treatment. And I say females are crucial because you might have a spouse, a girlfriend. Well, if you have a girlfriend, you should not be doing that. Sorry. The effects of the cancer, the operation, what I would say is that one of the downsides, I'll be quite open, most men with prostate cancer, whatever the treatment, radio, chemo, removal, most men, you lose in the early stages desire for having relationships. You know, you can see the most exciting things. Anyway, for me anyhow, I was not bothered at all. But thank God, it does, the desire to be close and have a relationship and be intimate with your partner, and it does return. And thank God, it has in my case. So thank God for that. So last thing, don't wait until you experience symptoms, get it checked now. And lastly, there's some new developments where they have the immune system, they're training the immune system to attack the cancer on the prostate. There's some new type of targeted radiotherapy. And one of the things why you tend to lose the urge to, you lose the libido, or whatever it is, all the nerves that joins from your stomach to the prostate, just over the penis area. If they do radio-assisted surgery, robotic surgery, it cuts the nerves. If they use chemo from outside the body, it burns the nerves. And so with this approach, they're saying they're going to put it into the area, into the prostate, and then from the prostate, it targets the cancer. And so some helpful resources. Okay, info for Black men. Now, Prostate Cancer Research UK is very good, and Cancer Research UK are excellent sites. Sorry, I've gone on for a bit and I'm going to stop now. And so if you have any questions, I'll try and answer them.
Today I'm going to be sharing a poem entitled Blood and Water. Blood is thicker than water. I mean, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Family is a word we throw around a lot, so it's easy to forget what it really means. I mean, right now, we're living in troubling times. The world is a scary, scary place. We look left, there's destruction. We look right, there's despair. We look down, there's destitution. We look up, there's hope. Is it hope? Hope is in, my hope is built on nothing less than Jesus' blood and righteousness. Surely not. No, it can't be, because hundreds and thousands are lost every day to a deadly disease we haven't been able to pray away, because hurricanes, tsunamis, and floods are stealing our homes, our lives, our livelihoods, because this earth is so dark and so heavy that people are choosing to no longer be a part of it. They want no part in it. But I don't know, there's something about that hope in ourselves, in our loved ones, in Christ. Anyway, as I was saying, family is a word we throw around a lot, so it's easy to forget what it really means. You see, when we look at families in the Bible, we think of Abraham, of Isaac, of Jacob. Why not of Peter and James and John, of David and Jonathan, of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, Elijah and Elisha, Paul and Silas? I say it again, blood is thick. I mean, the blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Family isn't just what you're born into. Family is who you choose. Family is people who feel like sunshine. Family is people who feel like home. Family is people who support you and love you and lift you and guide you and help you and keep you. And family is about us. Family is about we. If you take a look at our hymns, you'll see we's, not just I's. When we all get to heaven, what a day of rejoicing that will be. When we all see Jesus, we'll sing and shout the victory. That hope thing that I mentioned, it's hard to see when you're on your own, like a teeny tiny candle trying to light up an everlasting field. But when you multiply that candle with others who burn bright, that field grows ever brighter, darkness dispelled by light. As second cousins once removed join hands with friends and peers, that darkness that once stole our hope is cast out with all fears. And as we look to heaven, for our help cometh from above, we will join in a triumphant shout as our hearts swell up with love. For family is so much more than blood and death and birth. Your chosen family is heaven here on earth. Family isn't just what you're born into. Family is who you choose. For the blood of the covenant will always, always be thicker than the water of the womb. Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you, all of you. It's been so incredible to be with you, to have your welcome, your warm welcome from Danielle, to have my introduction from Bernie, to have Michael's courage and honesty, and Taya's wonderful creativity. It's been a real inspiration. And I'm so glad to be here with you. And I'm so glad you're doing something for families in this special week. And so now I'm going to be talking about conflict, but I'm going to be sharing things that you might not have heard before. And these are ideas that excite me because they're new to me too, but I see they have a great potential in helping us tackle conflict, the conflict that we all face. I mean, I've been married to Bernie for 38 years. He's also a family therapist trained, although he's a pastor. And, you know, we have occasional conflicts. They're not big ones, and I will talk about that, but it's normal to have conflict. So let's find out about what we can do. So Jesus said, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God." And I think that's because when we help unite people, when we help reconcile two different sides of something, then we are doing God's work. That's what God is doing in this big picture. He's trying to bring us together, back together with him. He's doing all the work on that to bring us back into the peaceful and pure relationship with him. And when we do that work, when we try in our small way to bring people together and we are peacemakers, people will say, "Oh, they're just like their Father. He's working hard to bring peace, and they know how to do it too." So blessed are the peacemakers. Whenever we try to connect, to touch across the boundaries, we will be called children of God. There's a story in the Bible, and I won't read it now because we don't have so much time, but a story you're probably familiar with. David Nabal and Abigail. And there's a lot we can learn when we go back to this story in 1 Samuel 25. So if you remember, Abigail is beautiful and wonderful and wise and kind, but somehow in life she got paired up with Nabal, who's a foolish, selfish, proud, greedy, uncaring, surly, mean, rude, disrespectful man. And David comes to him one day and asks for food for his hundreds of men, but Nabal's basically a millionaire, and David and his men have been helping to protect Nabal's servants as they care for their flocks, and they've been doing a lot of good things for Nabal. And it's a time of year when people generally will share food with others so they can celebrate. And David and his men don't have a lot of food, and so they come to Nabal and say, hey, it's that time of year, please can you share something with us? But Nabal is rude and greedy and disrespectful, and he won't share with them. And David is so angry, he wants to take a violent revenge and go and kill everyone in Nabal's household. Now, David's a bit distressed, like Samuel, his mentor, his guide, someone who he really loved, has just died. So he's going through quite a difficult time internally in his mind and his heart. And so he's not in the best place to deal with Nabal's foolishness. And that's why he probably gets more revengeful and angry. He's already vulnerable. He's already on the edge of emotions and struggling with them. Fortunately, a servant who hears this story, hears what Nabal says to David, and hears that David wants to take revenge, runs to Abigail. And my guess is she's used to these situations, because why else would she have 200 cakes of this and hundreds of this and loads of this, all ready to take to feed hundreds of David's men? And she gathers it all up together and she goes. She wants to bring about peace and not let David do this vengeful act. Abigail is wise, she is generous, she is caring, she's respectful, she's humble. She comes to David and she falls at his feet and says, please take this sin onto me, don't blame my husband, he is a foolish man, let me deal with it, let me take it onto my soul. And she gives the gifts and she appeals to David, look, David, you are a wise man, you are a kind man, you're going to be a king one day. Don't do this crazy thing, because you'll have to live with that story the rest of your life. And it's not a story you're going to want to live with. So make a good choice here. And she appeals to his better nature. She helps him calm down because she is peace-loving. She is respectful. She says wonderful words to him that help him re-engage with the wiser part of his life, to calm down and to receive her kindness. And so he decides not to go and do this vengeful act. And he thanks her. Thank you, Abigail, for helping me to understand this, to stop in my tracks and to turn around and to realize who I am and make a good choice. And so that was the story. And we see this as actually the way conflict plays out. Unresolved conflict leads to broken relationships. And when it does, it has a negative effect on our mental health, on our relationships. Conflict in families can lead to homelessness of teens and young people. And when I was working in Scotland for the Centre for Conflict Resolution as a volunteer doing some training with them, I learned that in a country of 5 million people every year, 4,000 young people were homeless because of conflict in their homes. And many people actually leave church because of conflict in their homes or between them and other people at church. The research from the General Conference shows us that the main reason people will list for why they left church when they're asked to give the top 3 reasons, the main reason, 62% say it was conflict related at some level. Then when you ask them for the second reason, 30% of people are saying that was a second reason for leaving. And the third reason for leaving is also about 33% related to conflict. So we can see that however much we love people and bring them into our community, when there is conflict in their lives that we don't help them with, or between members and different relationships around them, or maybe they see conflict and they walk away because they don't want to be part of that. That's why people leave our churches. So it's very important for us to be different, to find out what can we do, not just accept conflict is going to happen and people will walk away, but what can we do? We need to understand that conflict is normal. Every relationship experiences conflict because we're all different, and well-managed conflicts help us to sit, listen to each other, learn about our differences, experience empathy for the other person. Say, oh, I hear their story, I hear what their needs are, they're different to mine. And how can I support you? And how can you support me? How can we expand our idea of who each other are and accept that as being different rather than fight and conflict about our differences? And when we are able to talk and manage our conflicts well, we feel closer together. We feel, wow, that was good. We're different, but we found this way to be close. And then when we have a warm, closer relationship, then that tends to lead to fewer conflicts. So this is one of the secrets. When we have warmer, closer relationships, we're less likely to fight. So most conflicts are complex and messy. There's rarely simple solutions. And it's not usually about what we're fighting about. All sorts of different factors in our life, our memories, our beliefs, our thoughts, the way we're feeling on the day will contribute to how we experience and manage our conflicts. There's some basic conflict styles. One is on the arrow going up that says importance of self. How important is winning to you? Is on that dimension. And then how important is the relationship is on the lower dimension. And when people don't care so much about the relationship, but they want to win, and their goal is, I will win and you will lose, they build up resentment, distrust, and fear. People who say, I always want to win the argument, can cause a lot of distress to the people around them. They're not willing to listen to others. They just want to win and they don't care how that affects the rest of you. Then there's people who don't really care much about winning and the relationship is not that important to them. And there's like an I lose, you lose. They don't talk about the problem. Maybe they don't need to. Maybe they're strangers that have a conflict and then will walk away. But if we don't deal with it, we don't talk about it, it can become a big wall between us. Then there's harmonizing. So I'll lose and I'll let you win because I don't mind losing and it's okay with me. But if we do that too often, the relationship becomes unbalanced. And one person might learn that they can always win and they might move to the directing, controlling kind of person. And one can be overly submissive. We do these things at different times. They're not necessarily one consistent style. We may move between them. As a parent, there's times when I've said, you're going to do this because I say so. And that's directing, controlling. And sometimes with children, you just have to do that because they don't understand what the options are and you're in a hurry and you want to keep them safe. Then there's compromising. I can win some and you can win some, but then you might say, well, you won the last 3, so it's my turn. And that can be competitive. The best is to be collaborative. Let's both find a way to bring together what we want and need in our differences and find a fresh, creative way where we can both win, the way that we both like, that might not be in either of our minds at the moment, but together as we talk, maybe that will be developed. So that takes time to talk things through, to work this through. But in the end, both of you can be happy and you've learned more about each other. So I really want to talk about how we can reduce conflict in relationships, because most of the times that people talk about conflict resolution, the conflict has happened. And now what do we do? How do we come back together again? How do we resolve the conflict and the break that's happened? But actually, we can be proactive about lowering the amount of conflicts we have in our lives. And then we'll have less conflicts to deal with. And the more we lower the incidence of conflicts, the warmer and closer we feel to each other, we can do. And that, again, will lower the amount of conflict. So it's a good cycle to get into. So the big questions under most conflicts are not what you're fighting about. A lady called Sue Johnson examined and studied couples arguing for like 25 years. That's some effort. I'm not sure I had that much stamina. But she watched the videos of couples arguing and she realized that they weren't really arguing about the money or how they brought up the children or sex or chores or whatever it was. Underneath their conflicts were these big questions. And they really wanted to know, do you love me? Do you care about me? Can you understand what I am feeling right now? Can you empathize with me? Are you willing to help me when I'm struggling? Will you always be there for me? Can I trust you and depend upon you? And these are the questions of vulnerability in relationships. When we feel alone, and you're in the Garden of Eden, God said it wasn't good for man to be alone. And when we start to wonder, do you care for me? Can you understand what I'm feeling? Will you help me when I'm struggling? They're questions of, am I going to be abandoned? And am I going to be left all alone to deal with things? I need to know that you care, that this relationship is safe and caring for me. And so actually, if we understand those big questions and answer them well in the way we live together every day, we will reduce the amount of conflict that we have. We won't eliminate it because, some conflicts are useful, so we work through our differences and come to good solutions. And so we're not going to eliminate them at all, but we'll lower the incidence and we'll lower the fuel, the fire of the conflicts when we answer these big questions well in our everyday relationships with each other. So happy couples, Bernie and myself, we still have conflicts, but they're less likely to be destructive and have long-lasting implications. When we're going to do a seminar on conflict, we always try and think of what was our last conflict that we can talk about in public. And quite often we just can't remember what we were discussing, because it was a small thing and we were not distressed by it. So it doesn't stay in our minds. We just kind of let it go because it wasn't a big deal. But couples that are really struggling, if they come to me in therapy, they can tell me blow by blow, word for word, all the details of an argument they had a month ago. And those painful details are circulating in their mind. It's actually really important, as the Bible says, to repair any relationship before bedtime. Deal with your conflicts quickly. Don't let them fester and linger. Have the courage, the humility, the love to repair before bedtime, whether it's with your child, your teen, your spouse, your friend, whoever it is. Resolve before bedtime, because if you don't, when you sleep, you process the thoughts of the day and they go deeper into the mind. It's like they're collected in a basket in the front, and when we sleep, they kind of get filed away in the filing cabinet. But if you deal with them before bedtime, then they don't get filed away. They get filed away in a safe place and not a place of pain. And if we repair before bedtime, you lower the incidence of anxiety and depression. So we create healthy relationships where conflicts are less likely to happen when we are as kind to others as often as we can in what we do and what we say and how we email. So the kinder we are and more loving, then the less conflict we'll have. Because like Ben is very loving towards me, and one day he does something and I think, what was that about? That's a bit out of character. I know, I can tell myself, I know he really loves me. This is just a blip. 99% of the time he gets it right and I can just let it go. But if that relationship feels unsafe and uncertain and unstable, then that will not necessarily trigger a positive response. It can trigger there's a bit more evidence that he doesn't care, and and I can be more upset and more angry. Also, when we show appreciation and say thank you to each other, the more often we thank the people around us, the less likely they are to have conflicts with us, because that often comes out of resentment, and appreciation is the opposite to resentment. It's the antidote. So the more creative ways you can say thank you to others for even the small things that they do and show appreciation for them, the less likely you'll have a conflict with them. Also, when we understand the other person's feelings, listen to them, express our compassion, try and identify their feelings, sad with them when they're sad, be happy when they're happy, then that really helps as well. Takes away aloneness when the other person knows we're trying to understand their feelings and respond to them. Also, when we help each other, that also lowers resentment and lowers the incidence of conflict. And that's carrying each other's burdens. So when we support each other in the big struggles of life, we don't feel alone and abandoned with the big problems. We know that you care enough to come alongside, then that helps us to have less conflicts together. And also when we create relational insecurity, if you do that again, I'm going to leave you. Those sorts of things make the other person feel insecure and unsafe. And they're more likely then to have conflicts with you. So avoid doing and saying things that make other people feel afraid of you, because perfect love casts out fear, says John. And so if we're creating fear, what's happening? How is that affecting our relationship? How will perfect love push that fear out and help the person to feel safe? You know, even when we try and do our best in conflicts, there are people who will still argue or want to be disruptive and conflictual, like Nabal. You know, David had tried his hardest to be kind, generous, protective, supportive, all the good things that we've learned that can lower conflict. But Nabal, whatever reason, he had some big pain in his life, some difficult ways of thinking, and he couldn't accept this. He couldn't see this. And even though David tried his best, Nabal was just wanting a big fight. And this can happen. So how conflict escalates. So when we experience criticism or lack of support and connection, as David did when he invited Nabal to share food with him, then it's much harder for our brains to handle conflict well. We feel the criticism, the lack of support, all of those things can make us feel more angry. We get stressed, anxious. David has all these men to feed and he's anxious about that. He's sad because Samuel has died, and all of these feelings come together, and Nabal is the last straw. And then the anxiety, the fear bubbles over. He has cortisol in his body. When we have cortisol and adrenaline, we're more likely to shout, to abuse each other. We don't care about the other person's feelings. We just want to vent for ourselves, and we might even become aggressive. And then when our cortisol levels are raised, it kind of comes down like a big shutter and stops us accessing our prefrontal cortex, which will say, behave better. You can do better than that. Be nice, say something different. And so all the wise part of our brain, the empathic, kind, peacemaking part of our brain gets shut off when the cortisol stress levels are raised and we go into fight or flight reaction. We can't access our thoughtful, unselfish, and caring responses. And again, that's what happened to David when Nabal was rude. But Abigail was different. Abigail was in a better place. Somehow she'd learned to live with Nabal. She had all this wonderful food. I think she had lots of loving friends. The servants seemed to appreciate her. And maybe she'd been brought up completely different. So her brain responded to things better. And she has empathy, compassion, kindness, support, and appreciation. She does all those things for David. When we do those things, when we show kindness, compassion, when we help each other, even when we say thank you to others, something is released in us that makes us feel good, called oxytocin. And when we feel safe, happy, loved, and loving, then we're much more able to manage our conflicts, to think about the other person, and to manage them well. So when we can access the loving, kind, warm part of our brain, or help someone else to access it by being kind to them, go and get you a cup of tea. Let's just sit down calmly and talk about this. You know that I really care about you, and let's try and sort this out together. My goal is that we will come closer through this. So when we say those sorts of things, then it helps our brain and the other person's brain to be in a better place to resolve things, to find a peaceful solution. So, and that helps us to activate that oxytocin that makes us respond wisely. It lifts the shutter so that we can access that really good part of our brain that's wise, kind, creative, humble, unselfish, etc. And that kindness from Abigail helped to access the oxytocin in his brain and avoided and stopped him from making a violent revenge and a bad choice. So when we want to have a conflict, there's some things that when we want to talk about something difficult, maybe not want to have a conflict. When we need to bring something up that's important to us, that we think the other person might disagree with, choose a time when you're both relaxed. And if someone comes to you and says, I've got this issue and I want to talk about it right now, try and get some time to say, well, just tell me a little bit and let me go away and think about it. And that gives you time to sort your thoughts out, to not feel ambushed and then on a stress level where you're likely to respond in a less helpful way. So take time, reflect on it for yourself, look at things from different perspectives, understand their feelings, and you'll be in a better place to talk about it than if you are surprised. And start warmly, acknowledge the other person's hope, desires, and challenges, express your care for them. I know this is what you want. I know this is your hope and desire. And these are the things you're dealing with. And I want you to know that I care for you a lot. And then express your concerns in a non-judgmental, non-blaming way. I read this week that you should start by saying, you know, our relationship is really good. I really appreciate our relationship so much. And there's something that could make it even better than it is right now. And I think it could be this. Maybe we could work on that together. And that's a warm startup that Abigail used for David and how Jesus related to others too. So when we start warmly rather than aggressively, then that activates the other person's oxytocin. That makes them warm and calm and feel like they're loved. And then you can deal with it more clearly. If you whisper, if you lower your voice, speak calmly and kindly, use respectful language, will also help to lower the other person's stress level. And Solomon understood this psychology. A gentle answer turns away wrath. Change your voice. You can do that. Say what you need to say in a calm, kind way and see how that changes. Listen to the other person, sum up their ideas to let them know you're really listening to them. It sounds as if you're saying this, so you're saying that, and that will be really helpful to you. Let me see what we can do together. And listen to the other person's viewpoint before you respond with yours. Because when people feel heard and understood, that's part of the process, the empathy that lowers their stress and enables them to deal with conflict better. Now, this is my, if you want to take a picture of a slide, this is my anti-nag statement. So I found out that nagging wasn't very helpful. If I started to nag Bernie about something, we just got into a bit of a conflict and we'd go away feeling grumpy and unloved and uncared for. And I learned to say it like this: in this specific situation, when this specific thing happens, I feel because, and it would really help me if you would do this specific thing, and then I could help you by doing this. This is just one idea. What ideas do you have too that would help us to work this out together? And this is honoring one another above ourselves, expressing our concerns warmly, politely, respectfully, not critically, and inviting collaboration. So I might say, when I just clean the kitchen floor and someone walks across it with muddy feet, muddy shoes, I feel really frustrated because I spent a long time trying to get it clean and now it's messy again. And you know what? It would really help me if you would leave your shoes outside or put them in this bowl that I've got here. Because if I don't have to clean the floor again, I could do something nice for you, like, I don't know, make your favorite cake or make you a cup of tea. That's just one idea. What idea do you have that would help us with the muddy floor? We can solve this together. Admit your own contribution to the problem and share the responsibility for solving it. Use words like, this is our problem, we can do this, this is for us. When you use those words, you invite collaboration naturally. We feel connected. We are a we and our and us, not a you and a me. And so we come together more easily in that language just by using those words. Then use the word and rather than but. You want this and I want this. So how could we have both? Not you want this, but I want this. That immediately puts you on opposite sides. And then try and collaborate on a mutually acceptable creative solution. Aim for win-win. It's more important to protect your valuable relationship than to win an argument. What's the point of winning an argument if the person is distanced from you, if they're hurt, if they actually walk away forever? Because it's very hard to live in a relationship where the other person wins all the time. The loser feels sad, hurt, disrespected, and it's very painful. Paul says, do nothing out of selfish ambition or vain conceit. In humility, value others above yourselves, not looking to your own interests, but to the interest of others. Because when we do that, we create this collaboration, this coming together. I know time's moving on, but I want to tell you this story that Bernie and I taught us a lot. We were, as family therapists, we thought our children, our teenage children, needed to see adults like us have very good conversations where we could resolve our differences, and they would learn things from the way that we did that so well, because how else would they learn to manage their conflicts in adult relationships without a good example like ours? This was the theory anyway. And most of the time that worked, but there was one time we were having dinner together with our 3 teenagers, and somehow we lost control. Our voices got louder and louder. We got more and more aggressive with each other. We started to shout, and we completely forgot the children were listening until there was a bang on the table. Nathan, our middle son, the peacemaker, the one in the middle. Mum, Dad, stop. You're behaving like children. Stop right now. You both know better than this. You're training to be family therapists. And Bernie and I just sort of stopped. We're like, oh my goodness, what have we just been doing? And then Nathan turned to to Dad, Bernie, and he said, Dad, listen to Mum with your heart. Listen to her feelings. They're so important. And I'm thinking, yes, go, son. And then he turns to me and he says, Mum, listen to Dad with your brain, because he's got some really useful things to say. You know, and we just stood there like, wow, this is so profound. Our 15-year-old is telling us we're speaking in different languages. We're having this row because I'm trying to speak heart language and Bernie's trying to speak head language, and we don't understand each other. We can't listen to that. And actually, if someone is emotional, you need to focus on the emotions first and calm them down. Activate the oxytocin, soothe them, calm them. And that can take up to 40 minutes. And then, you know, let's just sit down, make a cup of tea. Look, I really care for you. Let's start again. Let's do this differently. And then you can start to talk again once the person who's very emotional is calmed down. They cannot access their rational brain when they're that emotional. It's a waste of space trying to be rational with someone who is emotionally distressed. So that taught us a lot. Soothe each other, know what soothes each other, whether it's the cup of tea or back rub or something funny. What calms the other person down when they could be already stressed? And it might not be about you that they're stressed, but life is a stressor. And the more we can calm and soothe each other down and laugh together, the less likely we are to fight. So we can make a whole list of solutions and then work out the best one that's going to be best for us in a situation. So Bernie and I would score each idea out of 10 and see which was going to be, which score the highest score that we both liked. And then we'd experiment with that, see if we liked it or not, maybe try another one, tweak the idea until we found a solution that worked for us. Ellen White says, when you go to those who you think are doing wrong, you must have the spirit of meekness, of kindness, and be full of mercy and good fruits. She understood what the psychologists and researchers are telling us now. The best way is to create loving kindness, like Abigail. She went meekly and kindly. She was full of mercy and good fruits. She took raisins and dates with her too. And that's what soothed the problem and helped find a peacemaking solution. There will be situations when it's unresolvable. There is one person wants to live in America, one person wants to live in the UK. You cannot live in the middle. You cannot compromise about that. But sometimes in a family, you have to make those decisions where there will be someone who feels like they've lost out more and one person who gains more. And the one who has gained needs to do his best to show compassion and understanding to the person who's in a state of loss. And so do whatever you can, as often as you can, to come alongside them compassionately, caringly, creatively, to help them with the sadness that's in their heart, comfort them, be sad with them, and bear their burdens. So as I said, well-managed conflicts bring us closer together because when we manage them well, we can understand each other, learn about each other. And the more I know about Bernie and he knows about me, then we can kind of adjust ourselves around those differences and see them as strengths. We need someone that can do this and someone that can do this. And so to see our differences as strengths in the relationship and to find unselfish win-win ways of solving our problems. When we do that, then we have a more loving, kind relationship that reduces the conflict, the hurtful conflicts, which increases our experience of love. And this goes in a circle. Of course, the circle can go the other way. Once you start to argue and fight and pull apart, then there's a spiral that goes the other way, which may eventually lead to complete relational breakdown because you spin so far apart with the pain and the conflict, you find it very difficult to reconnect again. Jesus said, as the Father has loved me, so I have loved you. Now remain in my love. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. And I have told you this, so that my joy may be in you and your joy may be complete. My command is this: love each other as I have loved you. It's not always easy. We often need to go and sit in his lap, learn from him how to love those who are difficult. But he will teach us, he will show us. And whenever I've done that, whenever I've had to love a challenging person, I've gone to sit in God's lap and said, let me see this person through your eyes. And I see things I would never have seen. And my heart breaks for the other person with compassion. And that really helps me to find a new way forward in the relationship. So as we close, what can I do differently that might change the course of my conflicts? What have you learned tonight that might change the way that you do your next conflict? Maybe you will have a warmer startup and say, let's sort this out because I care about you. This relationship is special to me. It's really amazing. And this one thing we could tweak would make it even better for both of us. Or maybe speak softly, or maybe do more kindness and gratitude in the relationship so that it feels warmer before you start. What can you do to be the peacemaker God is calling you to be? Is there someone around you that you need to help make peace with? Can you help people who are fighting to find ways to start caring, to lower the conflict, to be more grateful, to see things differently that might help to lower their conflicts? And what can we do together to create warm and caring churches, organizations, and families where these hurtful conflicts are less likely to happen, and where people do not leave our church because of the conflict in their own families that we can't help them with, conflict they see around them in the congregation, the conflict people have with each other? What can we do to create warm, safe, loving, kind, supportive, grateful relationships that are likely to have less conflicts? Here are some useful resources. If you want to know about being kind, on my website, actually the website has just been revamped, so this might not be where it says it is, but if you look for Live Kind resources, there are hundreds of ideas for being kind. I used to volunteer for the Scottish Centre for Conflict Resolution. They have a great website, and it's about reducing conflict between mostly parents and young people so that they don't end up homeless. And it has amazing things there. I love this quiz, Keep the Heed, which is Scottish for keep your head, stay calm. And it will help you find out your conflict style in the form of a different circus character, how you deal with your conflict and what else you could do. There's an app called Toucan Together, which is actually run by couples, and it has modules on conflict, communication, love, sex, money, etc. It's a really brilliant app on your phone. It's like a free marriage retreat on your phone, and it can help you learn ways to deal with conflict. Also, the book Everybody Wins, The Chapman Guide to Solving Conflicts Without Arguing, is by Gary Chapman, the 5 love languages guru. So he's learned a thing or two about how to solve conflicts, and that's a really great book as well. So thank you. That's a bit of a lightning tour of conflict and looking at it from a different perspective in terms of how do we create these relationships where conflict is less likely to happen than to think about, okay, the conflict's happened, now what we're going to do to come back together when that work is a little bit harder. So it's my prayer that we will learn how to love, as Philippians 1:9 says, may your love increase in knowledge and may it abound so that it can be a really strong and wise and caring love. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you that you care for us, you love us, you show appreciation to us, you support us, you have expressed your long-lasting commitment to us. You have done all the things that it's good to do in a relationship to reduce the conflict, because you don't want anything to be in the way between us and you. And you don't want things to be in the way between each of us either. You want to pour your loving peace and forgiveness, appreciation, kindness, and support, all those good things into our hearts to share with each other so that we can experience your love more fully between us and become people like Abigail who can reduce the conflict and the distress in people around us and help them to re-engage with their wiser brains, their caring brains, and make good choices in their relationships. Thank you for helping us with this amazing work, which proves that we are your children. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.